Hello. All right, so we will start our January 2025 meeting. Hello, everyone. Happy New Year. And we will begin with the call to order, or roll call.
Let the record show that all commissioners are present.
Thank you. And an invitation to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. And do we have special presentations or proclamations?
There are none.
And are there oral communications?
There are no oral communications.
Thank you. And as far as I know, there are no changes to the agenda.
There are no changes to the agenda.
So we will move on to approval of the minutes from our December 2nd regular meeting of 2024. Has everyone read those, and is there a motion to approve?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second?
Sure, I'll second.
Great.
Let the record show the motion passes with all commissioners voting yes and one commissioner abstaining.
Thank you. And just a nod of thanks to Vice Chair Morakovitz for stepping in December. And then we will move on to action item 8, 8A, and the annual work plan. So I thought we could go through and give very brief updates if need be on any of the items. And then part of the main content of tonight's meeting too will be talking a little bit about coming up with this year's work plan as well, or 25-26. So with that, we will begin. Is there, Commissioner Hebert, is there a tourism update?
No, the last meeting was before our last meeting, and there's not another one until, I think, February 6th. So actually, which I think is also after our February meeting. So there may not be an update until March, but I'll keep you posted on that. But nothing to report for now.
And if there is anything of interest, since there is such a month-long lag for that one, if you'd be willing to send an email maybe to Colette, and then she could send it to all of us as an informational item, only if there's something of actual like, oh, wow, this is something you would really want to share.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
I'll keep that in mind to do that.
That's great. And moving on, any funding opportunity updates? Moving on to number 3, any updates with promotion of city arts programs, Pacific View, Art Night, and other programs? I know we'll probably get an update, but I know with Pacific View, with the open house on Saturday, it was super successful and really exciting, and I feel like that you could really feel that traction is being gained. I know that I talked to people in the office, and they were like, yeah, people are coming in and registering, and so it's very cool.
I have under other programs there, just a little update. I was in contact with, I'm not sure her title these days. Is it Supervisor Roberts? I don't know. We were talking about, we had an email correspondence about the piano competition, because this is in regards to public awareness. So we're looking at some different ways to bring attention to that, more public awareness of that program through newspapers or magazines and interviews and things like that. So it's a little bit ties into that.
Great. Thank you. Awesome. Yeah, I know there has been more press in general about a few different things. It has been exciting too. I'll wait for that portion of the work plan for that update. All right, so moving on to number 4, the presentations. We clearly don't have one for tonight. I don't know if there's anyone on the docket we had spoken about in January and February. And if so, we will put them on the agenda and everyone will find out. Number 5, arts education. And is there any art residency program update? Okay. And for community engagement, I think we kind of checked that box at our November meeting. Number 6, the teaching, there's so many new classes, and so the word is certainly getting out. And is there any updates there as far as how that's happening?
No updates. We didn't receive anything to review.
Okay. And sorry, I just lost the document for the number 8. Thank you. For number 7, public art, the Pacific View, there's nothing going on for that one. For the sculpture loan program, that's where I was going to mention some of the press. The Coast News put out a nice article, and as did the Tribune, on the sculpture Neptune Jr. that's going into Leucadia Oaks Park. So definitely check those out. I think people are excited about that getting installed. And as far as our work on the public art, the sculpture program, we met as an ad hoc. We reviewed our presentation. We're meeting this week with staff to, make sure that our work is viable with what is possible for them. And before we bring it and discuss it as a whole, make recommendations together. Because of the holidays and the scheduling and staff being away and some of us being away, it's just gotten pushed. The nice thing is that earlier there was a bit of a time press, and that's lightened up a bit. So we'll still be able to really have robust conversation and work around it and still be able to launch it with plenty of time for it to actually be implemented, hopefully if council approves once we get there. So moving on to number 8. For both the Steinway D piano programs, I know that letter is going to council, to the new council. And is there any other update for 8? No. For 9, the youth piano concerto competition, I know that's on, it's rolling along. The deadline for application is in March, is that correct?
Yeah. And just to tie in a little bit, maybe Commissioner Aber, maybe we can talk about the some words, since you're really great with words, a great wordsmith. Create some articles or something we can submit to Supervisor Roberts, and they can consider for some publicity.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I wrote up a press release last year and sent that around And so I guess it's getting to be that time already to start contacting media and get the word out about that. So,
Okay, well, so
Yeah.
we'll be in touch together
okay.
in email
Yeah.
land.
Yeah, let's
Okay.
definitely do that.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, and moving on to visual arts for art night. When is the next art night?
April 5th.
April 5th, coming up. And is there a theme for that?
It is not quite ready for public distribution. We
Very
expect to
good.
have that done in the next week or so.
Okay, awesome.
They're polishing it up.
Okay. As always, if anyone wants to help out, and staff certainly like bring ideas to the to meetings and ask if we have any feedback as well. For the visual art selection panel, I see that some new, I think it was just installed a few days ago, or today. Yeah.
City Hall was installed this morning, and our usual schedule is City Hall gets done on Mondays, library on Tuesday, and community center on Thursday, and that's we're following. So we'll have new art in all 3 city sites by the end of the week.
Fantastic. Yeah, I encourage everyone to go. I mean, just in City Hall, it's really intriguing, and yeah, that's a good idea for having speakers come to our meetings too. Have the people who are making the art come and speak. And okay, so moving on to the student advisory panel with student art exhibitions at City Hall. Is there any update or status on that?
I think that Lou, I don't know her position. She said that she would get in touch with us or something. Maybe you can clarify.
Yes, she sent out a note to the ad hoc, and I think she heard back. I apologize, I don't recall who she said she'd heard back from, who was available, and just trying to find some overlap. There were some commissioners who, on that ad hoc, who were not going to be available due to their work schedules. And as you know, trying to schedule anything with a large number of people, you got to go with the greatest overlap of availability. And in the case of this particular committee, the kids' schedules are the priority because it's student-run. And we're hoping to get that moving and get traction and eventually set up a regular time so that there can be, you'll know that it's coming, and we'll be able to set that so that the ad hoc can hopefully participate. But the goal here is for this to be student-led, for them to have this leadership opportunity and create something that is meaningful to them and their peers.
Are you, to clarify, did you say that she reached out to the ad hoc?
Yes.
As I didn't receive an email. So
I did
maybe-
not.
Yeah, neither did I.
I will follow up and see what happened.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. So we'll move on to item 13, the bylaws. That update is that we have a meeting planned for this week with staff. We met briefly as chair and vice chair today with Director Knopp and just discussed moving forward. And we will be, because there's been some updates from city attorney and the senior commission has gotten theirs done and approved by attorney, then we'll use that to compare. So I've asked staff to get a copy of that and to email it to all of us so that we can have eyes on it. And we haven't.
You're talking about, excuse me, you're talking about the senior commission's draft, yeah.
And again, because of the holiday schedule, Director Knopp was away out of the country. Lots of us couldn't find a time to meet, and so it's been, again, moved a little bit forward. And that does that. So we also need to, number 14 is begin work on outcomes for our submission to City Council. So in April, I'll present the outcomes of our work plan. And so giving some thought to that from each ad hoc who has worked on something, if you can have that prep by the next meeting, perhaps, I can come also prepared with my own thoughts about it, and then we can kind of compare and try to tighten those up as long as there's, as work continues to happen. And then for the proposed work plan for this coming year, that is something that we can kind of dive into a bit. I'm trying to think of how to dive in. I think it's important to note all of the wins of this last year and really look at all of the work that staff has done and the city has done, and to understand the breadth of commitment and time and funding that is going on with programs that already exist. So with Pacific View up and running, with all new staff coming on, there's, I think, also knowing that staff is soon putting together the budget. Is that true?
We are in the process of working on the budget, and it's very clear that there are no new positions, no additional funding, so really being very frugal and conservative.
Mm-hmm. So I'd say there's that's one aspect to consider, which is thinking more about how to support and sustain the growth that's happening now rather than create new programs or ideas in that way. Another aspect is to look at what we all feel the residents of Encinitas have been really excited about, and also what each of us has been excited about as a commissioner. If you felt that there's been traction or a win during any of this work, to really understand that that's something that should continue. And then I'd say that we can be somewhat daring with cutting down our work plan. I know we go through these meetings, there's a lot on there. Sometimes there's so much to update that each meeting feels very full. And I think that there's some pruning to be done so that energy can become really focused and meaningful. Not to say that it's not already focused and meaningful, I think, in a lot of areas. And so the process, Chair and Vice Chair will kind of come up with a draft or maybe two drafts that we can all discuss. And then at this meeting tonight, we should all discuss. And I'd love to hear kind of general thoughts, if there's any ideas about, what you'd like to see on there still, what you think may be valuable but not necessarily the best use of our energy next year, how those sorts of things. And then a final piece after talking with Director Knopp and Colette, and thinking also about some of the goals of this year thus far, of being really kind of to understand how we can engage the community as a commission with these meetings. So like how, there's been a few examples, say with the sculpture loan program, where we make a recommendation, it goes to council, and then at council meetings, so many people from the public show up who have not really been involved. We're working on that specific program to get early public input and use that along the way. But it would be so great if these meetings could be that kind of initial conduit and draw a lot of residents in and have them come and voice, like Rosemary, their thoughts, wishes, challenges, all of those things. And that in and of itself, I think would be, I would feel really good about that shift, where it's like our role here is to make recommendations to council. Part of that is because we understand what people are thinking and wanting and all of that, along with our specific skill sets and expertise. So so the most extreme example, just to like kick off this conversation so it's interesting, would be to be like, we have no work plan, right? That's not going to happen. But I could see that, right? Where it's like our role is to come hear what people have to say, comment on anything that staff is asking our feedback for, the times that council has asked us to really do specific work. I don't want to go that extreme, but anyway. So I will stop talking. And would anyone like to hop in?
I have a question. Do we know what's on the city's work plan in terms of the arts?
You do, in that, so it's been shared with this time last year I do have a work plan, and it's the exhibitions, obviously Pacific View is on there, all the concert series, art night, public art, all the things that I report out on, those are all things that are on our work plan. And anything that's on the Arts Division's work plan is a city council priority. That's how it's come down into our department and into my division to work on it, is at some point, city council said, this is something that we want done, or approved a project in order for it to be done. So I can send that out again, just so you've got a nice, easy list to reference. But there's not much that's on my division's work plan that you don't know about, because we report on it. There's a couple of new things that came up that will be part of my report when we get to the Arts Division, and it's things like there's an Arts in the Park grant. It's on my work plan. There's not a lot we're going to need to do. There's the local arts agency cohort that I shared with you in, I think it was in November, and that's going to be, at this point, a lot more reporting out on kind of giving you information on what's going on. There's nothing actionable yet. So there's things like that staff participates in and engages in, but there's not really any action yet. There's nothing we could use your help with yet. Mm-hmm.
With the potential for the cultural arts district, would a master arts plan be something that would be needed to be put on an application, or make stronger an application?
It depends how you look at it. It could. However, the city of Encinitas has a really strong arts program, arts and cultural events program. And even though the Arts Master Plan is from 2002, the fact that it is a really well-engaged community, I think, mitigates the fact that we haven't done updates. The city itself has continued to move forward with goals. Also, to do an Arts Master Plan the way that City Council has shared, like the feedback is that, let me back up a little bit, sorry. So the Commission for the Arts attempted to do just a revision of some sections of the Arts Master Plan back in, I want to say 2017, 2018. And it is it's a pretty big endeavor to go after. And in sharing that up the line, it wasn't quite enough. And so the direction that we were given was, you're going to need a consultant. You're going to need to do this the right way. And at the time, that was about $125,000 that we didn't have the budget for. It was not a priority. Pacific View was getting ready to come online. And so that in the grand scheme of things, was not approved. I don't see, given the information that's been shared with me, that we're going to be able to do that right now without a grant. You know, if you were to find a grant for what it would cost for us to do that, you could do that in conjunction with. So really long answer is, it wouldn't hurt, but it is not required, especially for all that Encinitas has done to foster, nurture, and support arts in our city.
Thank you.
Yeah, just
Commissioner Haber?
speaking, thank you. Just speaking in general terms about what, I might like to see in the next work plan. This topic of funding obviously comes up a lot, and there are kind of two different spots in our work plan that are devoted to that. But I wonder if there's a way that we could kind of focus that mission a little more and make it more specific, because I feel as though it's just going to become more important, especially with what Colette was saying about there not being, this frugality being sort of in place. Our number 2 item on the work plan says research available funding opportunities. And I wonder if, it's kind of amorphous. It talks about a lot of different possible sources. And I wonder if it might be helpful just as a start to, kind of revise the language to say something like, identify 5 potential funding sources, something more concrete that would maybe empower us or inspire us to really find, at least start with a list, of potential donors or potential grants. And I think also in conjunction with that, like, I'm not an expert in finding grants or researching that kind of thing. I think we talked about in our speaker series, I think there was maybe somebody one of us knew who was an expert who might be able to speak to us about that. But I don't know if this could be an item or part of the same item, but some kind of, educational component to help train us a little bit better in how to find and, kind of best practices for finding funding, essentially. So I like your idea of really paring down the work plan, because I do think it's a little bit all over the place in some ways. But I would love for that to be a really prominent component of our next work plan, and really enable us to kind of take a deeper dive into finding what's out there. So.
And I can share some potential things that you could consider as a focus. I think between the time when it was on your work plan as this very generic funding for things, we've come around to a few items. Public art obviously being one of them. There's a strong desire for the stipend to the artists who loan their art to be higher. There's a strong desire for certain things to not be on the burden of the artist, and they've vocalized that here at this meeting. So if there was a grant that could help offset that, I've already been the advocate to get it raised from $1,000 a year to $2,000 a year. I don't see a path for that to go any higher based on within my what area I can affect or what staff can affect. But if there was a grant that could help support artists as part of the second round and be able to offer them more, that I see that as being an option. There are, I think I've shared with you that there have been some identified art nodes as part of Streetscape in Leucadia. There's no funding attached to them. So if there was funding, then those kinds of things could be considered. Another one would be funding for additional scholarships to reduce or eliminate barriers to entry for participants at Pacific View, both youth and older adults. There's a very large population of older adults living on a fixed income. They might be not in a great community of people. Maybe they're a little bit isolated, and we all know the power of the arts to connect us. But if they don't have the financial means, then they're not able to get in with a community that could be really supportive. So finding those kinds of grants to help with that kind of programming certainly could be a meaningful priority. The El Portal mosaics, their council had given us direction to produce a documentary on the making of those mosaics. And there's no budget. There's a little bit of budget left over, but not enough to really do it the way that it needs to be done so that we have this historical document that is interesting and meaningful. It's part of that cultural preservation. If there was a grant that could help support that, that would be a really interesting and meaningful thing. And then Art Night. Art Night is not in the budget. Art Night is one of the reasons it struggles is due to lack of funding, due to lack of support. And it would be wonderful to have the commission jump back in. If you don't know, Art Night came out of the commission, and it came out of solving the problem of the artists wanted to have receptions for their exhibitions, and they struggled. So the commission came together, and here's how this could be done in a citywide, make a big deal. And then over time, it gained involving the community partners and really trying to have it draw more attention to the arts and the artists and all that Encinitas offers. So I would strongly recommend bring it back. Find out what it is that it needs so that the community, what does the community want out of it? And is it grant funding that can help get us to what it needs to be? There are other communities who do things similar to this, and they're beloved. So those are some suggestions in terms of, if you found money for those are real existing things that we're doing and that, based on community input, could really have a meaningful impact.
Thank you for that list is very helpful. Just a quick question. The $10,000 donation from the EFA for scholarships at Pacific View, how is that, is there already is there a way, once that money is gotten, is there a way to a pathway out? That seems like another program, like a pathway out to get those scholarships where they need to go.
We have a meeting scheduled with EFA for later this week where we're going to learn more about that offer for the scholarships. Unfortunately, I have no additional information beyond that initial announcement at the grand opening of Pacific View. So probably at our February meeting, I'll have more information and be able to share that.
Thank you. Also, I'm curious, for the under the crossing in Lucadia.
El Portal?
No, not El Portal, but for the future one that will be built near Hillcrest. And that as an art project feels like, again, it's one of those things like, don't know how that would be under public art as generic, but since it's not planned yet,
Correct.
we wouldn't jump into it.
And there is a document, and I apologize, I don't remember what it is. Those themes, so even future undercrossings, all of the themes were predetermined. And I don't know who made those decisions, but there is a theme that's already established for any number of those. I can definitely get that and bring it with me to our February meeting and share that with you. It could be a good idea to just check in and find out what progress, I can get that information and share that with you at the February meeting, so we get an idea of timeline on that. Mm-hmm. What with the Swami's undercrossing, there was some conversation about what was interpreted as public art on that one, and that led to El Portal having what it had, because the inclusion of sea glass and that constituted public art, artists in the community they were not satisfied with that. So I believe that going forward, the other undercrossings are going to follow more of the model like what Santa Fe had, what El Portal had. It just hasn't crossed my desk yet.
Thank you. Yeah, those that would be great to hear in February. Okay.
Just real quick. Sounds like Colette just sent us a list of things that need money, and it sounded like you were asking more about ways to approach it. So I'm not sure if we actually answered your question. I did brainstorm a little bit about this, and I was thinking about the proposed mural, and I was thinking, why aren't we doing sell a bricks? Why aren't we doing make a mosaic? Everyone pays. Why aren't we doing things like that? Like raising money, people put bricks on the Pacific View property, $250 for a brick, or a big one for $1,000, or even using a mural where people could come and purchase a tile in the mural that goes together and creates funding. It seems like there's, I realize on here it talks about naming opportunities, but people that are passionate about the art might be passionate about leaving art as a mark as part of their donation. So I don't know if there's any way to explore funding or projects such as that may be helping to build revenue. And then I'd also, now that we're thinking about our ad hoc, like to think about, like the laundry list that Colette sent, putting some numbers to that and prioritizing. Because, if I was going to raise money, I would want it to go first to the master art plan before any of those items. And it sounds like the master arts plan would go down to the bottom. So let's say I had a friend that had $400,000, or no, $125,000. If they gave it, would it go to the master arts plan, or would it go to streetscape, which was underfunded? So it's hard to. I think that needs to be part of our plan, is determining if there are fundraising abilities within the Art Center, and how the funding, if it is received, is prioritized.
So I'm going to take that. There's a lot to unpack there. So thing one, I was just trying to make some suggestions to the first part, which was to maybe clarify and identify and have it be less sort of a big pot and put some names to some projects. So that was the piece of Jim's request that I was addressing, not so much the second part of it. And then in terms of when donations come in or when grants are sought, they are sought for specific things. So if someone were to come and donate $125,000 and said, this would be for an arts master plan, money goes to the thing for which it was intended. So when money is gifted, and when it's granted as well, all grants are for a specific amount of money for a specific purpose, and it needs to be used in that way. So the city would not take money for one intention and then use it on something else. It would be specifically earmarked. So when money is donated to go towards a scholarship, it goes into a dedicated donation account, and it is tagged for use for that specific item. So just to answer that part of it. And then in terms of priority, we're trying to be realistic about, where we are. Now, that doesn't mean you can't look for a grant for Arts Master Plan because it has not been identified as a big priority. It's just, in answering Katie's question, it's not, given where Encinitas is with its engagement with the arts, it's not as necessary an item as it might be for a community that doesn't have as much as we do. Hopefully that clarifies.
And what about like the sell a brick or paint a mural on Pacific View, and you could have, people come together and do a collage, and it's from different people. Those are things I've seen that have been done, and so I don't know if there's any way to use art to raise money for art.
I don't have the power to make those kinds of decisions, but that could certainly be a recommendation that the commission could make. There is already a mural that is being considered for donation to the city that is now looking like it's going to go in February to be considered. And if that goes up, then, is there a different wall where you might recommend? So it's not that you can't do what you're asking, it's that it would need to go to council for approval. There's an existing paver program for Parks and Recreation, not one for Pacific View. So it would just require a well-thought-out proposal that could be reviewed and potentially approved by council.
Would that be something we could get on our master arts plan, or would that cost too much of staff time for us to explore that?
I'm not sure I understand the question. So when you're talking about an arts master plan, are you saying you?
No, if we wanted to do a paver program, a brick program, that would cost something, and so it would have more than a zero fiscal impact, so we couldn't even get it on our work plan, right? Is that how it would work?
If you're wanting someone else to develop it, it would be a tough sell. If it was something that you were thinking that the commission wanted to draft and make a recommendation, then that's something that the commission is doing that really doesn't require outside of staff's involvement to be at the meetings and share that information.
Okay.
I think so far, all these are good ideas, and specifically that one, knowing that Parks and Rec has a pavers program, there's a template for it, and there's no reinvention of the wheel that would need to be done, you know.
There's
are all-
potential, so sorry to interrupt, there's potentially the research that we need to do just to confirm where they could go, how that would work. Is there a space at Pacific View where we could do it? That's probably the biggest unknown if you had Pacific View in mind.
Yeah, trying to think ways, so
Sure.
that could be, you know, a 2025, 2026 ad hoc, something that people could get us on.
Okay. Other thoughts for the work plan?
I had a quick question. For the next year's work plan, is there a way we can get input from the public before we make it? Is there just garner what they might want us to look at for next year? What are the different ways we could do that? I feel like we're brainstorming, staff would suggest, but I'm very curious about what people would want to see. Might not even be next year, but it could be just what, you know, like a.
We could, sorry.
Go ahead.
I mean, that could be part of our work plan, would be to try to find ways to get the public to come to our meetings and to express what they want to see.
Yeah, I think that's a great continuation and more than a starting point. But that idea again of having these meetings be better publicly attended and listened to, known about, that we as commissioners are more known, that people can email us or the city, and that comes through here. And then those ongoing relationships can help inform what we clearly see are priorities. So I think it's a really good point, one that Colette made earlier as well, which is this isn't about our individual passion projects, right? We are here as commissioners. We're supporting what's going on in the city, using our skills and our expertise to do that. And at the same time, we're volunteers, and we should probably have some passion about what we're going to do so that we actually do it. And again, just to kind of reiterate that we're not, I say do it, but we're not really in a role of doers. We're more, we are more advisors and making recommendations. In order to make solid recommendations, one has to do. There's research and there's reaching out and there's a lot of communication that needs to happen. And so, yeah, I think it's that idea of like wanting to be clear about how many hours can you give, and when you're giving them, feeling like they're actually well used. Mm-hmm. And that's a pipe dream in a way. If to like, I wouldn't think it never happens that 100% of the hours you give are well used. Yeah. But a lot of them can be. Right. So I think the public input part is big. We're excited to share for the sculpture loan program. Like we did get out and really speak with the community, random people in all districts and held focus groups and really listened to what people wanted out of public art here, specifically in Encinitas. So I could see, whether it's holding special meetings or devoting a few of our regular meetings to having public come and even with a theme of their comments, like what is it you want, to be informed about or whatever it is.
Yep, sounds good, yeah.
Are there other, Robin, do you have any input?
It was good to hear that art night needs more attention. That's not always, I guess, obvious to me as a commissioner that that's needed. So I think that, Colette's guidance here is probably some of the things that we should really focus on a little bit more as we kind of trim this down. I wonder, as far as public input and engagement, if there's a way, and maybe this is more of a process or a question for Colette, but when we know there's a scheduled meeting, and is it okay to share, this meeting's coming up, please consider attending or providing input?
Yes, for sure. This is our meeting, and it's a public meeting. Like, this is the only time we can meet is in public, and so that's why we meet in public, and one of the things. So many of us are having meetings or coffees or studio visits with artists, with people. I tell friends, and I think having that sense as a group of, well, what is this meeting going to be about, and what are we talking about, and like why, like tonight, I don't know if I had ran into a friend if I'd be like, hey, you should come to the commission meeting tonight, but if we make that a real thing where it's like, yeah, we usually have a speaker come, an artist in the community is speaking about how they make things, or a poet is reading a poem, or not even directly like that, but like come learn about a deeper dive into becoming less of a novice when it comes to funding, whatever it is all part of it. But yeah, I think that's being as vocal as possible, I think, is one of our major roles. Like these meetings are regular, they're monthly, but a great deal of the work is really done talking to people.
Mm-hmm. And is there, at this point, is there any way for the public to share their thoughts outside of just coming and doing a 3-minute presentation?
If they want to email their thoughts in, they can, and there is, it's on the website, it goes through the clerk.
Okay.
I think that if they send it in time to like arts@Encinitas.ca, I can get it attached to an agenda, but my timelines have been pushed out even more, so coming in person is way more impactful.
Yeah, okay. I was just thinking if there was a way for input to be gathered in between meetings, that maybe if it relates to an ad hoc directly or something on the work plan, if we as commissioners had a chance to look at it, maybe it can be part of the report each month, but I understand processes in place, just a thought. So.
Are you talking about like maybe a survey or something?
Yeah, like more of a form or something. But okay, well, maybe that can be part of the work that we do, is just in doing more invitation to the public.
Kind of adding on to that, I think somebody, maybe Katie, you mentioned this idea of putting a question out and inviting people to come and speak, and maybe having it more casual, like, something very casual, like, what would you like to see in public art in Encinitas, and encourage people to come and just say, top of their head what they'd like to see for 3 minutes. I don't know if people are going to do that, but so it's more of a, just a more casual, open kind of thing. And I also love the idea of inviting artists to come and talk, particularly the ones that are being exhibited as well, but also a lot of the artists that have submitted their artwork to the Sculpture Loan Program. That would be great to get to know them. And as they come, they can invite friends, and I think that could maybe build sort of a group, and that might be a direction that we could start off in.
It's also, since these meetings are recorded, it's good for them to, anyone who comes and gives a lecture or speaks, that is something that they can refer to and share with other people too. So that's just an added benefit to, both ways.
I think that the challenge is getting the word out. If you're going to have like some kind of town hall meeting or type, some kind of thing like that, you want to get as many people as to come as possible, and the tricky part is getting the word out. Because then some people they'll miss it and they're like, oh, I didn't know about it or something. Well, that's the hard part.
Can we use Pacific View, for example? Put up flyers there or something? I mean, there are a lot of, obviously, art-interested people that go in and out of there.
Maybe that's a question for Colette, like the usability of the Pacific View for something like that, like a meeting spot to.
I don't think Carla was suggesting for a meeting spot, but more like put up a flyer and say, hey, the commission meeting is this night and this hour, and please come and,
Join
share
the
your thoughts.
discussion
Yeah.
about what we
Yes.
want more of in Encinitas.
Right, and the answer is it can be. Keep in mind you have a lot of competition for all the communications, but yes, it can be included in those communications, 100%.
Maybe. I'm sorry.
Sorry to interrupt. I was just going to say that maybe a little reminder that it would help to be strategic about it in terms of, if there is something special going on, if we have a guest speaker, or if there's a certain night that we want to, in particular, to hear this critical mass. Because if we're kind of just generically inviting people to come to our meetings, they're, the typical meeting is probably for a member of the public is not super exciting because we're going through our regular business, which is important, but it's not something that, a lot of people necessarily have the time and inclination to sit for. So, maybe it would be a process of identifying, okay, these are going to be the particular meetings at which we're having something special going on. Maybe that goes without saying, but I would hate for people to hear about it and show up and it just be kind of a normal meeting and they don't really want to come again because, again, it's important, but it's not, the most exciting thing necessarily to attend. So
I think that's where we all have prepared our flash mob dance for if it's good. We see people running out the door. Jennifer?
I just I was thinking of like a Pacific View, there's like an electronic sign or something like that. I mean, would that be a good place to post, a video, I'm sorry, little advertisement of the commission meetings,
Definitely, it can be included in the digital kiosk.
Okay. Any other thoughts? Because it's really kind of an open, which is cool, kind of an open floor at this point.
I think that we were starting to, talk about brainstorming the areas. I mean, would it behoove to keep these general areas, excuse me, arts advocacy, arts education, public art. Can you scroll down, please? Thanks. Keep going. Public art, performing art, visual art. Should we just basically keep those headings?
I think as far as supporting city staff work plan and prioritizing, city programs and all of that, there's, in some ways I could see contemplating that question in regards to form an organization, right? So it's like, I don't know if any of you have looked at other commissions' work plans. They're all organized slightly different ways. And so I could see, it's like there are ways of keeping things on the work plan that then at least they're available to us if something unforeseen comes up that we want to initiate, that may not have as specific of a goal, where we could have those topics. I think it's the Traffic Commission or the Environmental Commission has a list of general themes and like numbers or letters next to them. And then throughout their work plan, it kind of says, this one correlates to this theme and this theme. This one covers these 4 themes. This one, and I believe they have action items. And anyway, so it's worth, I'd say that's part of our homework for this month, is to peruse those, maybe even other cities of similar size plans, and see if any jump out as far as ways to organize it. I wouldn't want to get too far away from this because I know it correlates to city staff plan, just so that we can continue kind of having ease of communication and but. Yeah, I mean, I think all of those, again, are topics that are touched upon. So maybe it's just kind of carving away from each of them, or I'm not quite sure yet myself. You asked the question, but do you have a thought about that?
That was all I had to say about that. Keeping these headings.
Quick question for Chair Fox. I know you mentioned this before, but you were requesting that we put together ideas to discuss at the next meeting, like write them down, but we don't need to email beforehand or anything like that. We're going to kind of bring something in and
Yeah, I think for ideas, you can just bring them in, unless there's something that really needs eyes on paper beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
For outcomes, though, for this year's goals,
Right.
any ad hoc that you're on, I would request that each ad hoc communicate amongst each other, kind
Got
of
it, yeah.
draft, and that you could draft up a rough, just a statement or 2 statements of outcomes, and those, it'd be helpful, I think, if they sent it to you, Colette. And then those could be attached, or
If it's a visual that you need to have reviewed at the meeting, then yes, it would need to be an attachment so that we could put that with the agenda itself.
because go ahead.
If it's something that is a follow, so you all discuss something and it's notes that individual commissioners are going to send to you for collation to that draft of outcomes, that doesn't need to go through me.
Is that not a violation of Brown Act, though, if an ad hoc is 3 commissioners and then they're sending me something that I'm not on the ad hoc?
They're sending you information only.
Okay.
So
Okay.
just to clarify, it would be something that you all discuss here, and then, okay, can you type that up and send it to me? So it's not asking for any kind of action. It's not, so no, in that regard, it is not a violation of Brown.
But if
So-
the ad hoc
yeah.
meets, say, next week and says, okay, this is the work we've done, here's 1 sentence or 2 sentences, and they draft it and they can send that to me?
No, in
Right.
that regard,
Yeah.
no.
That's what it, okay, so was that your,
Yeah, no, and I'm glad you brought that up. So,
but that
We
you could
are-
send to Colette?
If it was something that you really felt like it needed to be reviewed as an attachment versus just saying
Right.
it out loud.
okay. So maybe ideally, if I'm on an ad hoc, I can talk to the other members of the ad hoc. We can come up with kind of results or the important things that we want to say, and then just present that at the meeting, at
Yes.
the next meeting. Okay.
Yeah, that would be helpful, yeah,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah, because your goal would be to have the draft minutes, outcomes, so that they can eventually be all approved at your March meeting, so that it can then, because that's an item that goes to council for them to accept them. It's a formality.
Okay, great. So, and then once they're presented and discussed at our February meeting, then I can coalesce them and put them into doc, and then we can all
Correct.
have that as part of the agenda, so that we can all look at that and potentially vote on it for March.
Correct.
Okay, great. Okay, so this feels like a good stopping point for that discussion, or?
I have a question about what we were just talking about. So, for example, the ad hoc for the loans or donations, should we write together everything that happened? Is that what? Just all the outcomes, you want us to just write that down and send that to you?
So it's something that we all have to, we'll go through the work plan again, and we all have to say, yes, we agree that this is the outcome of the year's work on this item. And so, and then I will go in front of council, or we just submit it.
We just submit it.
And then council reviews and hopefully approves.
I see.
So
They just, they accept it.
Okay, thank you.
So we would just meet and briefly just say, these are the outcomes, make that list, and then we would just present that at our next meeting.
Gotcha.
And
Okay,
it doesn't need to be how you got there. It's really just
Bullet
the
points.
outcome. Yeah.
Bullet points.
right.
Things that were accomplished. So
And by
don't worry about, it's not short essay, I promise.
Yeah.
And by meet, it can just be a email exchange, right? We're not necessarily.
Oh, for sure.
getting together,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, however each ad hoc wants to do it, however it's easiest. Okay, then we shall move on. We'll move on to number 9, informational items, and number 9A, to receive the Cultural Arts Division report.
Well, it has been a big roar into the new year. We had a phenomenal meeting or open house, and getting to meet so many people in the community. I was a little concerned coming back from the holiday, people being maybe traveling, and would we have been able to get the information out? We really pushed it through all the available channels. Shortly after getting all the banners, it was even before with the parade, our plotter went down. So aside from the banners for the parade, we haven't been able to do new banners. So I couldn't get anything out there to put it in the community, to put it in all the big spaces. But about 500 people showed up on a beautiful day and had a great time. There were a lot of registrations for classes. People learned a lot of things. We met new people. So that was a really great day. The hours are now open till 5 o'clock, so we have after-school programs and longer availability on weekends. So that's all chugging forward. Staff is working on the next session, which is spring, and it will also include the summer camps, because parents with kids like to start programming those things, getting their kids ready so that by the time summer comes along. So staff has been pulling all that information. Our deadline is tomorrow. So we're not quite finished getting all that input. Let's see, public art, the sculptures that were, so the donation from Mady Morehouse is the one that is most scheduled, and we're looking at the last week in January. The 2 for the loan program both required some special installation pieces, some special pieces that are required to help support it on the pedestals. So we're going through all the process with the installer and with the artists to get that done. So we're probably looking at those installing in February. And if they're not already up by the time we meet in February, I'll have more information about that. But just so you know, that's all in the process.
Can I request that you send an informational email to the commission when the installation date is going to be? Like, it would be great to know that and be able to show up and photo and.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And one other quick informational question. For people who want to call into Pacific View to register, is there a phone number we can just have recorded here, or?
Absolutely. It is 760
Mhm.
943 2160. The tricky part about registering over the phone is there is still a waiver that needs to be signed. So staff can help, but I believe it can't be completed because that waiver is required.
Okay.
But definitely staff can answer questions and help. So I don't want to dissuade people from calling. I just want to be really transparent that that waiver is something that needs to, when they register online, there's a button that they can click,
Yeah.
and that's the digital signature. And if they come and do it in person, they can physically sign it. It's the over the phone that's a little
Okay.
tricky.
And this, I think it's fine to say in a public meeting. I tried to register and it brought me up as a non-resident, even though I double checked my address and everything. So I didn't want to register and pay the higher fee and then have to go back and get a refund for it. So I just don't know if other people are running into that, if that's deterring anybody.
Well, I would say that anyone who has registration challenges, so that's where calling that number and staff can assist with those kinds of things. It could be any number of glitchy things that need to be addressed on the back end of ActiveNet, which is the system that the city uses. So having that number and not, hesitating to reach out so that staff can help.
Okay. Yeah. You may want to just check that, because if other people are.
Well, it would be
Running
on
into
a
it.
case-by-case basis, so there might be, I would say, call staff so we can look into your account.
No, I'm not concerned about my own personal. I'm just saying I experienced that. And so I was like, oh, I'll wait till I can just go. But other people might be experiencing that and then are not registering, because life goes on. So,
Yeah, this is the first I've heard, so I'll definitely look into it.
okay.
But there could be any number of things. One of the common things is people haven't been in there in a while and they forgot their password and need a little help. So that's probably the biggest one. Or they decide to just create a new account, which please don't do. Please call staff and let us help you get your password done, because then you have multiple accounts, and when you try to go back in and find what you registered for, you don't find it because it's not in the account that you've logged into. So there's reasons. There's a lot of reasons people could need assistance.
Great.
Okay, another cool thing that's happening is Vet Arts applied for a grant for arts and parks, and the city is partnering with them. We're working through the logistics of the agreement. Basically, Vet Arts is going to run this program that will be in Encinitas parks. It's free. It's going to run through October or November of 2025, and it's going to allow participants probably 3 sessions a week, hopefully starting in February. And they're 2 to 3 hours in length, allowing 5 to 10 participants, depending upon what the program is. It's free, and there will be some sign up that's required just so that they can be prepared for how many people are really going to come. But it's an awesome opportunity for free art, so it removes all those barriers, so accessibility. And once I have more information about an upcoming schedule, I'll share that with you. It doesn't exist just yet.
And what kinds of classes or art opportunities are they offering?
They had talked about having there be a lot of painting, drawing, even some sculpture, some clay projects. Okay. Also, the local arts agency cohort, that's getting started. The first meeting is on January 22nd. Commissioner Romer and I hopefully will be able to go to the Mingue together that day. And it's exciting to find out where this program is going to go. So we're going to learn a lot more at that meeting and can report out at our February commission meeting. But the focus of this meeting is on cultural policy and cultural districts. Jonathan Gluss will be part of the conversation. And Balboa Park is a cultural district, so it'll be interesting to hear their perspective on it, and then in meeting with our peers from other cities, how that cultural district, having one, not having one, I'm looking forward to that conversation. Music by the Sea is really coming alive this year. We're very excited about the program. And as of now, the January 24th concert, we've sold over 100 tickets for it. I think that the partnership that we've got with San Diego Music Society has really gained ground, and more people are finding out about it. And I look forward to having the other 60-ish seats filled, because it does promise to be exceptional music. And that is my report.
Thank you. Those, like the San Diego Music Society, all of those outreach and lists, is that something that can be utilized again to, if we wanted to get the word out about these meetings or things happening? Seems like there's so many different lists, like of organizations that could behoove that process.
So when you say list, like have San Diego Music Society do something, or what the city does?
Or what the city does.
So the city, we have a pretty good, Arts especially has a really good database, and information goes out. We have done a much better job of getting it narrowed down to specific lists and respecting what people's preferences are for the kind of information they want to receive. So yes, and also if someone has said, I only want to receive information about concerts, then we might put a little tag on the bottom of the concert email, but we're not going to send them a dedicated email on a topic that they haven't asked to receive.
Although it wasn't, if it's more things get added to the list of, do you want to receive information about this? They may have checked it if they didn't have the opportunity to check it, so you don't know.
We don't, and also since getting our lists organized and taking the information, the general information that we had, our unsubscribe rate is incredibly low. So
Okay.
we do want to be respectful.
Mm-hmm.
But including come to the next Arts Commission meeting is something that's fine to put on there. And we do include the commission meetings often in the city newsletter that goes out every week. So that's a place where we put it out, because that's general city news.
Okay. Thanks.
And then 9B, the calendar. Wednesdays at noon is back up. It just so happened Christmas and New Year's were both Wednesdays. It's been a while since we've gone without a Wednesday concert 2 weeks in a row. So they're back on the 8th. And then on the 15th, 22nd, and 29th, Lars Huffs does the Villalobos Festival, and we're looking forward to having those concerts at the library. Are often really popular. So I'll share again. Capacity in that room is 170. It's free. It is general admission until it is full. And there is no standing. There is no extra. Come at 11:30 if you really want to see that concert. And then Music by the Sea, January 24th. We are really excited about that. And future planning, I didn't add to this, but I'll share Art Night is on April 5th. So put that on your calendars.
Fantastic. Thank you. Okay, so moving on to number 10, Commissioner Member Initiated Item, Agenda Item. I don't think we have any.
There are none.
And likewise for future agenda items.
There are none.
Okay, moving on to Commissioner reports. It was holiday time, and did anyone want to share anything that they've done or been doing?
We were talking about the parade earlier. We did end up having a presence in the parade, and it was a lot of fun. And Commissioner Kadakia was very helpful marching along, and I was trying not to drive too fast for her to walk, but passing out. What were the little tchotchkes that?
The little notebooks?
The notebooks, yeah, that was great. Those went pretty fast, and Vice Chair Marakovitz and her son were both there. Her son was a really dedicated sign bearer for the for the piano the competition. I don't know. It was good.
Did you guys get
to?
to see what the senior commission did? So they had a whole procession of dancers. One of their instructors organized a little dance marching thing. So I believe the challenge has been thrown down.
Yeah, wow.
That item is number 1, 2, and 3 on our work plan
Yeah,
next
right.
year.
First of all, poach their dancers, but yeah, no, that's great. I didn't feel free to add anything about your experiences, you two, but
It was just fun. I couldn't make it last year, but this year was just, it felt great. Yeah. We ran out of the little notebooks, and it was just a lot of fun. Yeah.
Fantastic.
And the car was great. The car was amazing.
yeah, public shout out to Cardiff Classics for providing the convertible, which worked out nicely. It was like a 62 big red convertible. And I'm glad we got the banners in time before the machine, I guess, conked out. So
Oh, yeah, that was, there is another plotter, but it is not the same interface. It's not in our building. To say that it's a challenge to go and use it is an understatement. And Nicole's team did have to go make use of that to finish off the banners.
okay, yeah, Nicole was great to work with and got us everything we needed. And Jamie was there, and everybody from the city. It was nice to see. Something else I was going to add about that, but I can't remember what it was. Anyway, it was a fun experience. Lack of dancers aside. So.
I'll go ahead and share some of the highlights I enjoyed. After this past year, having the Shostakovich as a entry for the piano competition, I attended the San Diego Symphony, and that was just really lovely. That featured Inan Parnatan, if I'm saying his name correctly. He played both the Shostakovich concertos 1 and 2, so that was just an exciting thing to hear. The whole 2 concerti back to back like that. And what else? I enjoyed the courtly noise. I'm never able to attend the Wednesday performances because I have to work. But I enjoyed that one Wednesday, courtly noise. Like it's a medieval group, and they have very authentic instruments. That was really cool. And I enjoyed Nutcracker. So that was that just made my month, seeing those things.
All right, fantastic. I'm scheduled to go down at some point this month to Balboa Park to the Sculptors Guild and have a tour with Sergi, who's the artist of the Neptune Junior, of his studio and also the Guild. So that will be great to hopefully meet other sculptors and see what's going on down there, and just again that attempt to kind of spread those foment those connections. Yeah. Okay. Any other reports? No. Okay. Then we will adjourn at 6:21.